Welcome to Backseat Ball Players, where we give unfiltered, uncut, sometimes over-emotional sports takes. We didn't play past high school, but we feel the agony of defeat and the thrill of victory like anyone else. Join us as we tell the drivers of the bus how to do it from the back seat. How's it going, guys? This is our inaugural episode. My name is James. This is Timmy. This is Junior.
What's up?
Hey.
And the topic for today, been talking about this a lot. I want to talk about the agony of sports defeat for the city of Atlanta. You guys, I don't think the city of Atlanta is talked about enough when it comes to this sort of thing. I really don't.
Nope.
So just for point of reference, I got a couple things here. People talk about like the Detroit Lions, right? Like they've never won a championship, but they actually have in 1957. Granted, that was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
But just kind of wanted to bat some of those things around. Are there any other teams that stick out to you guys?
Cleveland Browns.
Cleveland.
Yeah,
Cleveland. You could throw in. You can throw in pretty much that, like the entirety of, or like half of the AFC.
Yeah.
Well, my dad being a Chargers fan, San Diego Chargers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
LA Chargers.
LA Chargers.
Yeah.
You can throw in.
You got the Minnesota Vikings.
You can throw in Denver. Honestly.
Yeah.
They got Broncos,
Yeah.
but Colorado Rockies are. I don't think ever will be good.
Yeah.
And then you got. There's plenty of them. There's plenty of them.
Some things I like to point out too is they talk about the Boston Red Sox, right? Who had that 104 years?
102.
Yeah, something like that. That was a long time. The Cubs, had 80 something years, something
Until
like that.
2016.
But
Dodgers.
But see, nothing is ever brought up about Atlanta sports franchises to me.
Even though they're one of, top 5 biggest
Easily.
markets for sports.
Easily.
And just
And
at
it's
the South.
a lot of people don't even realize this. The Falcons have never won a Super Bowl.
Nope.
The Hawks have never won an NBA championship.
Nope.
And the Braves, since they've been in Atlanta, have 2 World Series in 30 years.
Thank goodness for that.
And one of the greatest rotations of all time.
Yeah.
In that time period, we won one singular World Series.
Exactly.
Of that whole time.
But I wrote down a couple of these just to kind of combat, and I want to kind of get y'all's take on it, especially being here. And so we are in Atlanta. We're all Atlanta sports fans. Me, not so much, but we'll get into that later. And I'll get ridiculed for that as well. So we talk about the Detroit Lions, right? So yeah, they, for the modern era, they haven't won. But the Pistons went back-to-back, 89, 90, won in 04.
Yeah.
The Tigers have 4 World Series, and I didn't know this until Junior brought it up. The Red Wings have 11 Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
So the city of Detroit's fine, right? I don't want to hear about the Lions anymore.
Unless you're a diehard Lions fan.
Unless you only watch
how bad does your franchise have to be to push players like Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders into retirement?
Yeah. And then
not just push them out, but push them into retirement.
Now, is there something to be said about the Detroit Lions fan base? Not just talking about Super Bowls, but they are the only team to ever go 0-16.
No, the Cleveland Browns did.
Do they have a claim to that? The Browns did too?
Yeah, the Browns did too. In the 2010s.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So, sorry, Lions fans. Y'all don't have it. Sorry.
The Falcons had a 2-14 season.
That was pretty
rough.
rough.
We all remember the Joey Harrington.
Yeah.
That was pretty rough.
Another team that I thought about was the Arizona Cardinals. They won, I believe it was an AFL championship in 1947.
What are we talking about?
So no Super Bowls.
No Super Bowls.
I think my grandfather was allowed to see that one.
But
I don't know, my grandfather was
But the Diamondbacks have won World Series
with Randy Johnson
in 2001.
Yeah.
But the Phoenix Suns have never won, and the Coyotes in the NHL have never won. So
they're gone now.
So let's debate the Arizona versus Atlanta.
And they left.
The
Coyotes
so let's debate
Utah.
Yep. Now they're the Menace.
All right, so we're talking about
Same
one major championship.
Yeah.
So, and it comes from their MLB team, the Diamondbacks, and we have 2 major championships that come from the Braves. So I think it's pretty even. We have one more championship. Braves also have a. If you think back on the dynasty of the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah.
Well, with the Jones brothers and obviously Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz. Braves have the upper hand. I mean,
Yeah.
Diamondbacks. You can look back on the Diamondbacks
They've had
one
more
championship. It's
history.
like, oh man, Randy Johnson, Kurt Schilling, Luis Gonzalez. Those guys were great.
Yeah.
But I mean, you also got to factor in how long the Braves have actually been in tenure. I mean,
The
we've had
Braves,
the Boston Braves, the Milwaukee
sustained
Braves.
a winning environment, like a winning culture for years.
But see,
They
this,
still do.
but see, this is where I come at it from a different aspect. I feel like it hurts more
Oh yeah, it does.
that
Oh, yeah,
you won
100% does.
14 straight division titles
The Diamondbacks aren't
and did
even.
nothing with it.
The Diamondbacks, they're not. They're a small. Arizona's a lot smaller of a market.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Atlanta is a big market, and we're still not doing anything.
Exactly.
Arizona is. I mean, they have a pretty big fan base for their sports.
And to
But
switch,
I mean, they got it.
Phoenix is a decent sized city.
But it's not
it's
Atlanta.
probably larger than Atlanta. But with that being said, I don't know the media, like the market. I don't know.
so as far as the media markets go, I looked this up. Atlanta is in the top 5.
Atlanta's in the top
Phoenix
5.
is not.
Okay.
I don't know where Phoenix falls, but they're not in the top 5.
Okay.
But to your point about Phoenix, if we switch sports for a minute, the Suns, granted they never won an NBA championship, but they've been to multiple finals.
Yes.
That was bad.
The Atlanta Hawks have never been to a finals.
We can thank LeBron for that.
Well, we got swept by the Cavs.
Well, we don't have to thank him, but yeah, it's your fault, LeBron.
LeBron James.
If
Well,
you're watching,
yeah.
it's your fault.
And when we won 60 games and then got swept
You have
by
a
the
lot of
Cavs.
Hawks fans in Atlanta that do not like you.
Yeah, he got a lot of.
Come to Atlanta, help us win.
That'd be great.
All right, so moving on. So here's another one. Now they kind of get bailed out with their baseball team, but Minnesota fans, the Vikings never won a Super Bowl.
Oh, they've got.
Timberwolves have
Vikings
never
are-
won an NBA title, but they do have 3 World Series with the Twins.
Yeah, but how recent? I mean, they've been.
They won in '87 and '91.
So 91 was against the Braves.
Yeah, it was against the
That was
Braves.
a great World Series.
I think the biggest argument against Atlanta sports fans having the plight is the Braves. That's going to be everyone's biggest argument against it.
Well, if you
Because to
consider
your
But that
point,
makes it
the
worse.
sustained success.
That
Yeah.
stings more.
Yeah.
Like think about just 2 years ago, 2023, we had the best hitting offense since the Minnesota Twins when they had theirs.
Yeah.
And we got nearly swept against the Phillies in the divisional round.
Yeah.
It just seems like they've never been able to get over the hump in either the NLCS or NLDS, and then we ran into the Yankees a couple times
Yeah.
in the 90s. I mean, it's just there's always that team, and the Phillies have been that team for the Braves.
Mm-hmm. Especially recently.
I mean, you talk about a year where we dominated them. Braves fans dominated the Phillies in the regular season, and then you get to the playoffs and
Just nothing.
yeah,
We had our one game that,
all of a sudden you can't hit off of Wheeler
and it's not
Nola,
and that happened the year before too,
Yeah.
in 2022.
so
That also happened. I mean, multiple other times. I don't know. It's just.
You're talking about a team that year that broke records. I believe it was in hits and home runs in a season.
Mm-hmm. We tied the home runs.
Tie for home runs in a season
Mhm.
in MLB history, and then all of a sudden you get to the playoffs and you can't get a single hit, one.
Not even Ronald Acuna,
I mean,
our star
you
our
let
star player.
what was the Hispanic pitcher? Suarez. Let a guy like Ranger Suarez just absolutely dominate your lineup 3 times.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, it's like, what's going on?
And the one game that we actually got through, I think, was Zach Wheeler was on the mound, and we actually, I think that was at Truist Park when I think it was game 3,
Yeah.
or something like that. And we at Truist Park, and we won off the freaking. We doubled them up when Arnold Harris caught that ball in outfield and threw the medals. And
That's why, what y'all are saying about baseball is why I've always felt this way, and I want to see if y'all feel the same way. When you talk about the big 3 at least, I don't know enough about hockey, but in baseball, when you get to the postseason, it's about being hot.
yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
And
pretty much.
in football, when you get to the postseason, it's
Healthy.
about being healthy.
Yeah.
In basketball, when you get to the postseason, it's about the superstars.
Yeah. It's about your player.
You can have, like to your point, you can have the Ronald Acuñas and the Matt Olsons and the Marcelo Ozunas and the Austin Rileys and the Sean Murphys and the Michael Harrises, but if they're not hot going into the postseason, you get what happened.
Yeah.
That's why it's been a big argument too of like you get that 1 seed and you got to wait out the wild card series.
I was just about to make that point,
You know?
and we were
The
actually
Phillies saw that last
we
year.
were actually talking about how we were it looked like a disadvantage for baseball teams getting that first round bye until all of a sudden the Dodgers
Yeah.
broke through last year with
Yeah.
that first round bye, but they did struggle.
Yeah.
No, they had their struggles. I mean, the thing with them was, I'm not trying to be that guy with MLB, but who did they not have on their roster? Let's think about it. What was their biggest hole? Maybe like left field.
Well, you think back 2 years ago.
I don't know.
They had Chris Taylor.
It was Teoscar Hernandez.
He was left field. I think he was right field.
Well,
if
Mookie was playing shortstop.
If you think back 2 years ago though, Braves and the Dodgers both received the first round byes, and if you look at the top of both of the lineups, I remember with the Dodgers, I believe it was Shohei, Freeman, and Betts all went 0-4 in that first series. Hey, you're not gonna win.
Yeah.
I mean, they all go 0-4.
Yeah.
Well, then you look at the Braves lineup. We had something very similar with Acuna, was it Riley and Olsen? Something I think Acuna had one hit.
That was just our entire lineup.
I mean, so yeah.
You can have all the superstars you want.
How do you explain it? You're talking about 6 of the best hitters in all of MLB. How to explain that?
Yeah.
That's the first round bye.
Ronald Acuna had his MVP year in 2023.
Yeah. Well, going back to the NFL teams and just trying to figure out the plights of different NFL fan bases and obviously the surrounding teams around them. Just want to go over a couple right now that other people would talk about. You got the Cleveland Browns. I think we talked about that.
Yeah.
They did have the Cavs breakthrough the 1 year with LeBron. They do have 2 World Series with the Guardians, though they're both over 80 years ago. Their NHL team, the Blue Jackets, which I think is Columbus.
Yeah.
But they've never won a Stanley Cup.
I don't think they've ever been good.
So you got them, but then you got like the Buffalo Bills, right? Everyone knows the fall of the Bills. 4 straight Super Bowls they made it to and lost.
Jim Kelly.
Now they do have 1 AFL championship. I know how you feel about the AFL, but they do have it.
we ain't counting that.
It's not Super Bowl, but
no.
They have back-to-back World Series championships from the Blue Jays. We gave the Buffalo Bills the Toronto Blue Jays for baseball because it's right there.
It's right there.
And then the Sabres have never won a Stanley Cup.
I don't remember when they got founded though.
Yeah.
They're relatively. Hold on, let me look that
up. The hockey team?
Yeah, the Buffalo Sabres.
I don't know much about the Sabres.
Say at least 20 years. At least. He's gonna look that up.
Yeah, I think. 1970. Okay, so.
So about 50 years.
55 years.
Yeah.
So they've had to go 50 years without a
anything.
Stanley Cup. So that's a long time.
That's a long time, yeah.
Then you think about the Cincinnati Bengals. Never won a Super Bowl. However, Cincinnati Reds have 5 World Series.
Yeah, they've had a lot of success.
There's one more team in the NFL I wanted to point out, and I actually think this is actually going to prove my point even more about Atlanta sports fans. That's going to combat the Braves rhetoric. It's like, man, the Braves have been in contention, but they haven't won as much as maybe they should have. I'm going to actually explain why I think the Braves fan base as a whole is hurt more by that with this team right here. And just follow me for a second. The Tennessee Titans. They have 1 AFL championship as the Houston Oilers.
They weren't even in
They weren't even in
Nashville.
Now, so if you think about that, the Titans don't have a Super Bowl, the Grizzlies don't have an NBA championship, and the Predators have never won a Stanley Cup. So that's 0 across the board. However, this goes back to my Braves point. When you think about the Braves fan base as a whole, you have to take it out of the city of Atlanta.
You take it.
Nashville's a part of it.
You take it to Alabama. You take it to Tennessee.
Nashville's a part of it.
Alabama, Mississippi,
Kentucky,
Carolinas,
the Carolinas. Honestly, Louisiana. I would include Louisiana.
So when you include those,
the Braves are the team of.
It's Braves country.
Yeah.
If you take that into account, the 5 or 6 states worth of Braves fans, and obviously there's more everywhere else because of the Superstation, TBS. That's another reason why. Going off of this NFL argument of it's mind-boggling.
The Braves were America's team.
It is.
TBS?
It's really mind-boggling how the city of Atlanta has failed its fan base so much.
That's a little harsh.
I mean,
it's not harsh actually.
I mean, look,
well, unfortunately, it's not harsh.
And then we'll run through the NBA teams really quick because we touched on them in the NFL. There are a lot of NBA teams that don't have championships. You have Sacramento Kings, which, sorry, Sacramento, no offense, you don't have teams in any other sport. You're kind of just there. The Suns don't have a championship. They do have the D-backs. The Clippers don't have a championship, but even though you don't, Clippers fans hate the Lakers, you're still in LA. So you got the Lakers, Dodgers, Rams, all those guys. The Jazz don't have an NBA championship. But other than the new hockey team that they just got, you pointed out, y'all are kind of like the Kings. So.
Also, who watches sports in Utah?
Right.
College football.
That's about it.
Well, it's funny you brought up college football. It's funny you brought up college football. So the Indiana Pacers might be changing this season.
Yeah.
Have never won a championship. However, they do have the Colts. And I did, for the first time, I brought up college with the Hoosiers. They have gotten to watch the Hoosiers.
Yeah, the Hoosiers?
You're talking about just the Hoosiers. Indiana is college basketball country.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're talking about Indiana State, Larry Bird back in the day. You're talking about Purdue Boilermakers. You're talking about, what's the other big one out there?
Is it Butler?
Butler, yeah. So, I mean, you're talking about some big-time programs in the state of Indiana.
Then you have the New Jersey / Brooklyn Nets. Never won a championship, but I kind of lump the New York Mets in with them.
What about the Big Three, man?
As well as the Giants.
No disrespect to Notre Dame, by the way.
Yeah. I also lump the Giants from the NFL in with them, so they don't really have a case, in my opinion. Now, here's one that maybe is Charlotte. Yeah, the Hornets, who've never done anything. Panthers. They've been to two Super Bowls. But they lost. And again, like we talked about before, they're basically Braves country.
Yeah.
So they kind of fill our place.
They are Braves country.
Then you got the Timberwolves, you got the Twins, you got the Orlando Magic, who've never won, and I kind of lump the Buccaneers in with them. It's Orlando, Tampa sort of area. Tampa Bay Lightning for the hockey.
They won recently.
Grizzlies, don't have a championship, but we just went through the whole Tennessee thing. Then the Pelicans are a newer franchise, but the Saints did win a Super Bowl.
They did. They did win a Super Bowl, and that's literally the only thing they have.
So
So talking about Braves country, so obviously there's been chatter about the MLB expanding, and two of the major cities that they're talking about that could potentially get a team is Nashville and Charlotte.
Yeah.
So that could potentially, obviously eat away at Braves country, especially if a team goes in Charlotte. I mean, you're losing the Carolinas.
But let me ask you this though: do you think that they're going to expand, or do you think that two other cities are going to lose teams that are going to go there?
That's a great question.
I'm talking about expanding, but Tampa Bay, they did rebuild their stadium, so I think they're safe. But there has been teams, in past discussions that would possibly lose. Miami obviously did a lot of renovations to their stadium, so I don't know. I think it's going to be expansion.
I think it's a higher possibility of expansion rather than taking away, just because MLB is. As much as people hate to admit it, MLB is still very popular and has it's probably, especially for playoffs. Playoff baseball is like another.
And there is so many cities that want a Major League Baseball.
So many. There's a lot.
The crazy one I heard the Nashville team. I heard early reports. It was actually the Orioles were thinking about leaving Baltimore.
That would be wild.
Only because the city wouldn't build them a new stadium.
Yeah, their stadium is beautiful. Camden Yards is
I know.
Camden Yards is great.
Great place.
The problem is the baseball team's organization is not great.
Yeah. But hey, we'll see. Remains to be seen. So we'll go over the MLB teams really quickly. I was actually shocked to see some of these. I didn't realize these. The Brewers have never won a World Series.
The Brewers are cursed.
Insane.
I genuinely think the Brewers are cursed.
Now, granted, again,
we had
the Milwaukee Braves.
Yeah.
But I'm not giving credit to the Brewers or the Atlanta Braves for that one.
19.
Unless some Milwaukee.
22.
If I offended any Milwaukee Braves fans that are still alive, I apologize.
Yeah.
But they did have
Hammer and Hanks, baby.
Yeah.
But they did have the Milwaukee Bucks, who won a championship in '71 with Kareem and in '21 with Giannis.
Yeah. So.
And let's be fair here, y'all also have the Green Bay Packers, so sit down and shut up.
Milwaukee, you have no reason to gripe.
None.
No.
Padres never won a championship, but we talked about San Diego / LA / all the cities in California.
87 sports teams in LA.
The Seattle Mariners never won a World Series.
They're They're not new.
Yeah,
They're not new, but they're not like.
But
They're not old.
you did have
If you
that
think
little,
about some of the teams they had,
you did
Each of
have
us-
that
each of
little that little season of the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, they
yeah. Well, I was gonna
Yeah,
say
they have.
the Seahawks won in 14, and the Seattle SuperSonics won in 79.
Yeah.
but they lost the Supersonics.
The Sonics left, and I'm voting for y'all to get them back. Y'all need the Sonics back.
I wasn't alive, but I'd like to see it.
That was a great team.
Great colors. I
Great
don't know what.
colors, yeah.
Green and
Great
freaking.
colors.
Yeah,
Great colors.
for real. Green's my favorite
We're
color.
advocating it.
Advocating, yeah.
I got it here somewhere.
A team that Timmy just crapped all over earlier. The Colorado Rockies have never.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
They've never won a World Series. I think they've been to one.
Todd Hill.
They've been to one in the not recently in the first 5 years or something like that they
in the early
started.
2000s, yeah.
No, they
Yeah,
started
It was the
and
Todd
then
Helton years.
nothing.
Todd Hill.
And then literally nothing.
Yeah.
Well, they got good again with Arenado.
But you can't. The problem is you
Yeah,
can't.
but they trade all their players.
You can't pitch in Colorado.
You can't.
That's the problem. And
I don't know why they ever put. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, Colorado Rockies fans, but putting a baseball team in the highest altitude place in America is the stupidest decision of all time.
Because not only do you need to just develop the best pitchers in the league,
Which is
just to be.
Yeah.
You can't get free agent pitchers together
No.
either.
No, they gotta.
I mean, they
gotta
have
go.
Kyle Freeland. That's their longest tenure player.
They gotta go in there with the mindset like the Orioles kind of had, and that's basically you gotta out hit everybody.
Yeah.
And they can't do that.
And
Unfortunately.
they don't have the players to do that
Yeah.
because all their great players end up leaving because they're not good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so
Hey, they got Charlie Condon in the
Yeah.
in the minors. Hopefully he can go.
Go
Do
Dogs.
something.
Go Dogs. We'll get into that another day. But
Charlie Blackmon, go Jags.
But the Rockies,
Alright.
but Rockies fans do have the Broncos, who went back to back in 98, 99. Oh, look at that, another Atlanta Falcons Super Bowl.
Another demise. We
didn't
got
win.
absolutely destroyed.
And then the Jokic years.
And then, yeah.
And then they won in 16. The Broncos did again with Peyton, and then Jokic just won a title in 23 with the Nuggets. So, you know,
We don't want to hear no chatter.
No.
you got the Tampa Bay Rays, who, you know, they somehow managed to be competitive with a laughable payroll
They
every year.
they managed to be competitive, like consistently. I'd say.
But again,
Even right now, like who's their? I mean, they still got Yandy Diaz.
Yep.
Junior Caminera's doing really well.
Yep. Every time they
their
get a good
pitching
pitching
is-
staff, they trade them all away.
Yeah,
They get rid of them all.
crazy.
I can't even tell you. Shane Boss is on
Shane
the
Boss.
staff. I know that. But I don't know. I don't even know their pitching staff.
But you know, Tampa Bay fans, y'all have the Buccaneers. You know, you got 2 Super Bowls out of them, and the Tampa Bay Lightning have 3 Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
And it's
So-
been relatively recently for a couple of them.
And the Buccaneers, obviously, Brady, Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So let's go. So now let's move to just talking about the Atlanta teams to try to make our point here. All right. So I want to start with, because I feel like I want to go in order by what I think is going to take the least amount of time to talk about, and then at the end we'll go to the team I think it's going to take the most time to get into.
Don't offend us now.
So number one, let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right, there ain't much to talk about. So
No,
let's get
there's
over
literally
this.
nothing.
So they've never won an NBA title, right? So it's like
They
they've had good players.
They never commit to tanking.
No, they've had good teams.
Yeah.
They've had good teams, but they never commit to tanking. They never commit to a rebuild.
Well, I would never want to commit to tanking.
I mean, but at some point, when you don't even get to a finals appearance,
Yeah.
we gotta find something that's not working.
But why? So let me ask this: why do you think that the Hawks have not even they've struggled to even be competitive?
That's a
Are we talking about recently, or
Just in
because there was a year that we were
I would
won
say-
60 games and we're the 1 seed going into the playoffs.
I would say
And
we can talk
made
about
it to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then
we can talk about the 80s and 90s.
All the Bruins out.
Most of what we know is the 2000s and the 2010s.
yeah.
He's more of the 2010s.
the team
but
with
we know our history. We can talk about
the
it.
team with Millsap and Horford.
Yeah,
I mean, that was a
number
great
one
team.
overall seed.
That was a good team.
Corver,
Yeah.
they ran into LeBron. I mean, so did everybody else.
I mean, yeah, but what did we do next season? Building off of that.
Well, it kind of fell apart.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, It's just we get somewhere. Like
what was the guy? Tarian.
We let Torian Prince
We
go.
let him
Prince.
walk, and I don't remember who we inserted there, but it wasn't the same. That team just played as a team.
We traded Jeff Teague away.
Yeah, Jeff Teague got traded away. So.
We signed Dwight Howard.
And Schroeder was nowhere near anything close to Jeff
We
Teague.
signed Dwight Howard and let Al Horford walk.
And Dwight Howard was not good in Atlanta. He ended up.
I think he ruined Paul Millsap.
I think Dwight Howard. He actually ended up coming off the bench.
Yeah.
By the end of the year, he was just not good.
He did.
And then we ended up trading Kyle Korver to the Cavs to go help LeBron.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we alienated probably the best head coach in Atlanta Hawks history, in my opinion.
Look how that worked out.
Yeah.
Worked out.
Just so y'all,
swimmingly.
if anyone doesn't know, the very next season, Coach of the Year, NBA champion, Giannis, MVP.
So when he mentions the Atlanta Hawks and then we follow that up with a laugh, that's exactly why.
Yeah.
All right, so here's where we're about to get into the nitty gritty, and these two may come across the table at me. So the Atlanta Hawks is one of the Atlanta sports franchises that I have left.
Yeah.
Left a while back. And I'm going to give you my personal thoughts on the reason why the Atlanta Hawks are generally bad. And it is.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to jump across the table. We might be like, yeah.
And it is your fault.
It's our fault? I mean,
the fan base, the Atlanta Hawks, read my lips, the Atlanta Hawks fan base is horrendous.
It's pretty bad.
I
can't disagree.
I watched playoff games when Trae Young was going up against the Knicks. It was a great series. A lot of hatred there. They're in Atlanta, halfway through the second quarter. State Farm Arena is half empty.
Yeah.
So when people come at me and say, well, if they're just competitive, we'll show up. Bullshit.
Well, I don't know.
I'm calling BS.
I don't know what you were watching because I remember that series and State Farm Arena was rocking.
That's fair.
We had that was one of the first times as a Hawks fan, and there ain't too many moments that I've been proud of. That was one of the first moments, that series against New York and Julius Randle and all the hype behind Spike Lee. And when they came to Atlanta, we whooped their ass.
Yeah, I know.
And it was because of our fan base. That place was rocking. The cameras were shaking. You see all the white towel. I mean, that place was rocking. So I have to disagree there. But to your point, watching regular season games this year,
oh my
embarrassing.
It's
embarrassing.
in the last 5 years, I've been to like on my hand, I can count how many games I've been to, and every time I go to like a game at State Farm Arena, it's just like
it's boring.
It's like I can pick out every section.
There is no hype.
Now I'm a numbers guy. So can I interest y'all in a statistic?
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
In 2024, 2025, would y'all like to know where the Atlanta Hawks ranked in average attendance?
Like
dead last.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Let me explain something to you. When I looked at this list and I saw that the Washington Wizards average more fans than the Atlanta Hawks, that is, I'm sorry guys, that in my opinion, that is directly related to the fan base. Y'all were a playing team. You were a playing team. You were there. And people just didn't care. They don't want to show up. They don't want to support. I don't understand.
I mean, it might.
Well, you know what part of the reason is that we were dead last in attendance? Because of people like you.
There we go.
People like you, when the Hawks are bad, jump ship and go follow another team.
Uh-huh.
And guess what that does to the fan base?
Yeah.
It dwindles it.
That's a fair point.
And then you're looking at the numbers, you're like, oh man, the Hawks only average 30,000 fans or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wonder why. Everybody left. I
But
wonder why.
that
They
goes,
suck.
I mean, that still goes case in point with the fans. Like, even if the fans leave, they were still our fans at one point.
My point being is, if the Hawks weren't so bad year after year after year after year and didn't disappoint year after year, they would have stayed. The fans would have stayed. You can't blame the fans. The fans left because they had a reason to leave.
Okay, well, all right, that's fair. Well, then let's circle this back to baseball then. How do you explain Braves fans sticking around?
Well, I mean, Braves fans, that's a whole different thing.
Braves are just different.
Braves have been around longer. They've had World Series.
And like we talked about earlier,
the culture,
the fan base is a lot bigger.
When you watch on It's not Bally
I'm
Sports.
gonna say, how can you?
FanDuel. When you watch on FanDuel and you look, like they pointed out in the games,
Yeah.
we have people all over the place at these other parks.
How can you not go? How can you not go to a Braves game, even if we're losing, and not have fun?
Yeah.
Like, take me out to the ballpark. Like, you know, like, you have a good time no matter what.
It's also a different culture of baseball too, because
America's
baseball is.
pastime.
It's yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, when you see Truist Park, it's a lot of Braves fans. That's what Jordy Brand.
Another
80-20.
Another reason, like, Braves, it just has been instilled and bred in people. Like you think back on the Maddox and Glavine and Smoltz years and the Jones, like, you can't leave that. Like, that's in you forever.
Yeah. It's childhood. I mean, it's childhood for me.
In our lifetimes, who from the Hawks?
You can't think about it.
We're talking about Paul Millsap. I mean, are you kidding?
That's literally what I was talking about earlier. I have Kyle Korver as my
Where's our Hall of Fame Hawks players at?
Yeah.
From the 90s till now,
yeah.
There just isn't any.
Yeah.
There's just no
So there has been no excitement. So yes, the Hawks fan base is a dying fan base until the Hawks put something good on the court.
But this goes back to my contention of years past. And if y'all stick with us for a while, you're gonna understand I'm the basketball guy. That's my sport. It's my favorite sport. The fan base not being invested, in my opinion, is the main reason y'all can't get big name free agents to come here.
That's fine though. Look at teams like Boston.
So it's like
teams like Boston, they built
everything
within the organization.
They
drafted their way to an NBA title. The Hawks can do the same.
Hold on, can we talk about that for a second?
Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up. Can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah.
That was Boston taking advantage of and picking on an idiot NBA franchise like the Brooklyn Nets, who gave them 7 first-round picks for a 40-year-old Paul Millsap and a 39-year-old Kevin Garnett.
Yeah.
Hey,
Brooklyn's dumb.
Hey, look, we pay our general manager for a reason.
This is true.
Yeah.
We all have the opportunity.
Every team can make those kind of trades.
Yeah.
I mean, it don't take. I mean, it might.
We had players available. It's not like we didn't have players available during that time where they got those first round picks. We had the options. We just don't It's like we don't commit to anything. We're scared of upsetting our fan base that we have dwindling right now.
You think about.
And we can't get anything going because they're like, okay, do we want to do this or are we gonna pull a Luka? And then everyone's like, start going crazy and.
You think about 3 years ago, right? The Hawks made it to the playoffs. What? I think it was 3 years in a row. It was like 8 seed, 7 seed, something like that.
Plans on.
Trae Young. We had that 1 year with Trae. He had a really good playoffs. We went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Didn't get past the Eastern Conference Finals. But the point being is we needed something more, right?
Yeah.
And then the Hawks went out and made a bold trade to bring in an all-star guy with Murray.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And they gave up, what was it, 3 first-round picks?
Yep.
4 first-round picks?
3 first-round picks.
3 first-round picks. So they made a bold move to do that. Okay? And then Murray gets here, and we're watching Murray and Trae Young try to play together. It just seemed like it never clicked.
I think
we were still the same team that we were before Murray got here. We still were a mediocre basketball team, probably worse than what we were before. The record didn't get any better. The excitement didn't get any better. And then what do we end up doing? We ended up trading Murray to get 2 of those first-round picks back.
Hey, we got Dyson Daniels too.
So it's like, well, we did get Dyson Daniels, and so it may end up working out in the long run, but it's just like
we did something. It was like, all right, it was just nothing. Like nothing.
I didn't understand or like the DeJounte Murray trade from one aspect and one aspect only, and you guys know this better than anyone. It's been my biggest. It drives me nuts to watch the Atlanta Hawks do this. The Atlanta Hawks front office is absolutely infatuated with wing players, and I don't get it. You can literally trace the Atlanta Hawks' downfall from their epic first seed to when they got rid of Al Horford, who was a big man. Yeah. You have not had a real legitimate big man since him.
Well, Capella was supposed to be that guy.
And Capella,
we've gone through like 3 different centers last year.
Capella was fine. However,
they drafted Onyeka Okongwu.
You got to think Houston let Capella go for a reason.
Yeah.
He
was supposed to be the spark. He was supposed to be the glue that brought it all together.
And what about letting him go now?
Yeah. And then you got Okongwu, who I like Okongwu. He's good, but he's a 6'9".
He's just too small.
He's too small.
And
very skilled though.
The frustrating thing for Hawks fans, and I understand this myself, is the NBA is going away from the traditional big man, but I still feel like that's what y'all need. That's what you need.
That's why people are linking Giannis to us.
Yeah,
because that would literally
think about
like if you grab a player from another team that would fill in for the Hawks and be like, okay, now we can see them as somewhere actually like a trajectory of somewhere. It would probably be Giannis. What we would give up for him would be, I mean, I don't know what we would all have to give up for him. But
I agree with you that we are missing a big man, and I think the reason why we are missing the big man, and I think the reason why it's the missing link, is because Trae Young is so small.
Yeah.
We need to make up for that size somewhere. You can't have a undersized Trae Young on the court, which he's great. I'm not saying anything bad about Trae Young. Trae Young, he benefits any team that would have him. Mm-hmm. Okay, the problem is you don't have size and length behind him. Okay, and so we're already lacking defense at that one position. You can't have a 6'9" center behind him. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
Now you might play fast, but at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to stop nobody.
Yeah.
No.
So you just have to hope you outscore him.
Yeah. So we just need size.
Which goes back to the front office because, again, in my opinion, you're not going to draw a free agent here. The only way you could get a Giannis is if you trade for him. Yeah. He's not going to sign, I don't think, a free agent contract to come here.
Unfortunately, he will not.
If he had his choice of where to go, he ain't coming here.
And if you look at the two teams in the NBA Finals right now, the Pacers and the Thunder, they got great guard play, and they're both bigger than Trae Young. But man, they got size in the backcourt, man. They're big men. They play as big men. Mm-hmm. You don't need a Jokic or a Giannis. I mean, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But you don't necessarily need that if you got guys like SGA or Halliburton.
Yeah.
You just need somebody that's a big man that can play big.
So basically, the Atlanta Hawks front office just needs to draft well.
And
yeah, I mean, essentially.
But see, the thing
is, you can boil it down to that.
Take a big man, take a center.
We got a first round pick, and it was looking like we were going to get our big man. And then the big man doesn't want to come here because the culture is so bad. He's like, I'm not going to play there. I'm going to play in Washington. It's like,
which is awful. But I mean, that's pretty bad.
So
when
just think about that. So a team that has had all the history, infatuation of the wing player is forced to take another wing player.
And this also brings back to the point. We are a big market team, and we need to stop acting like we aren't. At like every time we're like, it's like we're a scared like animal or something. Like we're like, okay, we're gonna put our chips in, and we get DeJounte Murray. You put like 3 chips in, like nothing, like that was it
for another guard.
For another guard. And then it's like I don't think money is a problem for any Atlanta sports team. Even though salary cap, Braves are top 5, top 4 on salary.
So you don't worry about salary in baseball.
Yeah, I know. But like Atlanta is a big market team, and everyone is acting like it isn't. And that is one of the biggest problems for me.
Yeah, and that's the reason it's crazy that's why I came to the conclusion, even as unpopular as it is. That's why I came to the conclusion this got to be the fan base, because a lot of these players in these, especially in the NFL and the NBA, they live here in the off season.
Yeah.
So you live here, but you don't want to play here.
Nope.
That to me that screams organization. But it also screams fan base.
So I'm going to piggyback off of that. Not just fan base, but lack of fan base.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We got Falcons games.
Because if you go to Falcons games, now traffic has a lot to do with Falcons games.
Yeah, but they do.
That's a great segue. Let's talk about the Falcons now. Yeah.
Falcons, if you go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium is a beautiful place. Anybody would want to go to watch a game or play a game in Mercedes-Benz.
We're hosting the
free agents.
FIFA.
Yeah, free agents should want to come. Fans should want to come and watch. The problem is you're sitting at Mercedes-Benz at halftime and the stadium is half empty still. That's a problem. Whereas
can't even get to the location.
Lambeau Field, before the game even starts, you got fans screaming stadium
with their shirts off.
In unison.
With their shirts off.
Rooting on their Packers.
2-degree weather.
That's what you call a home field advantage. Yeah. And what the Falcons and the Hawks have not had is home field advantage.
We have.
Yeah.
We have the nest, which is one singular section, in the corner of the field. It's like you can't even hear them. They're like you can't even hear them.
If they're on the other side, you can't hear them. You see them.
No disrespect to them at all because they're there every game and they're awesome. But I mean, like that's what we have. Like that's our big stadium fan.
We need that
engagement. We need that everywhere.
But to your point, not only are the Falcons
We
games,
don't got terrible towels going this entire.
not only the Falcons games a lot of times half empty, but it's funny you brought that up. I've been to Falcons games and seen Falcons games where there's terrible towels in the stadium.
That's another point.
Like more terrible towels
So to me,
than us holding up anything.
Hey, so to me, again, I hate to beat a dead horse.
It's the fan.
It's the fan base.
Yeah.
How can you, as a season ticket holder, and one of you, know who I'm talking to? You sell your tickets to opposing fans. To me, being a season ticket holder, I understand money and I understand wanting to make money and blah, blah, blah. But in my personal opinion, my fandom, there is no chance in hell I would sell my ticket to an opposing fan. I don't care who it is.
And he's still a Falcons fan.
I am still with the Falcons. I was barely hanging on. Fontenot, you finally got your head out of your ass this year. Finally.
Man, he called out Fontenot.
Yeah, oh my God.
Thank God you finally did. So you
And even that came with backlash.
you kept me for 1 year.
Yeah.
I was this close.
He was hanging on by threads. He's like, this draft class is gonna make or break it.
This
He's
is
got to
it.
go to the Packers.
Yeah. See the colors? Yeah. But man, the main one that got me was the hatred and vitriol that we have as Falcons fans for Saints fans. And I go to a Falcons Saints game, and there are Saints fans everywhere.
That's because they live here.
They're everywhere.
They live here.
But I watch
That's the problem.
Hold on, but I watch Falcons Saints games in New Orleans, and Falcons fans don't take over New Orleans games.
Well, that's because they still live there too. During Katrina, half of New Orleans moved to Atlanta. So Atlanta is no longer Atlanta Falcons. It's now Atlanta.
Hey, that's a good point. I think that is actually a good point. Atlanta is like
A melting
the
pot.
city of the South.
Yeah.
Everyone is moving to Georgia, so you have people from everywhere that are coming in that were already fans of other sports.
You can go in your neighborhood and knock on every door and ask them who their favorite team is going to be.
You're absolutely right.
It's a
gonna
list.
be a long
It's a
list.
list.
Hold on, you're absolutely right. But here's where I'm going to push back on that. I personally know at least 5 people that are Buffalo Bills fans that are from Buffalo. They're not Falcons season ticket holders. They're not. They buy the tickets from the Falcons season ticket holders and Buffalo comes here, which is my point and is the problem. The Falcons season ticket holders should tell the Buffalo Bill fans to kick rocks. You're not coming in the stadium.
I actually met the last Falcons game I went to, we were out there tailgating, and I found it kind of strange that there was a guy tailgating with the Falcons and had a Denver Broncos tent, Denver Broncos jersey on, Denver Broncos beanie. It was kind of cold outside, and so I stopped and asked him, like, hey man, I think you're at the wrong game. And he was like, oh no man, he's like, I'm from Denver, Broncos are my team, but I live here, so I just bought season tickets, and hey, when the Broncos come and play, I'll have my ticket. And I found that kind of interesting because I was like, okay, so this is a Broncos fan who's just loving the game experience, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and it doesn't really matter who the team is. He's just coming to watch a game.
And I've seen fans like that as well.
Yeah.
I have to admit that.
But it makes you wonder, though, like, how many other fans of other teams are doing the same thing? Just because they live here.
Bro, so Alabama doesn't have a sports, does not have an NFL team.
Yeah.
Alabama has no NFL team at all.
Yeah.
We should be, majority of Alabama should be Falcons fans.
Yeah.
I'd say at least half. At least half.
Especially when we consider some of
But
the
I mean,
great Alabama players that have played in it.
Yeah, Julio Jones.
Calvin Ridley.
That's their biggest, the only thing Alabama has is the Crimson Tide.
Yeah.
And when Julio Jones came to us, they were like, I'll watch him eventually. Like, we have nothing, we have just people that, I went to Jacksonville State University, and I asked multiple different people who go there and live in Alabama. I'm like, hey, who's your sports team? Who do you root for in the NFL? I had 3 Cowboys fans, a Ravens fan, a Tennessee Titans fan. This is just of like a group of 20 that I asked, just out of curiosity, a couple days. I had a Patriots fan, and I had a list of other people who just were not, and they live in Alabama. Like, they live Mercedes-Benz, and none of these people go to these games at all. If we're talking about Braves country, we should have Falcons country.
Yep. Well, that goes back to my point I was saying about the Hawks. You put a good product on the field, it will draw fans to you. The Braves have done that. In the last 30 years, they have done that. They only got 2 World Series out of it, but they've
at least been competitive.
Division title after division title after
16
division title.
And
the Braves were a fun team to watch. I remember when you jumped ship off the Braves, and the Braves were really bad. We'll get to that. Sorry that I spoiled that. But,
no, you're good.
But you jumped ship off the Braves because they sold out, and they were really bad for like 4 or 5 years.
He's the segue man. We'll talk about the Braves now.
And I remember vividly when we first got the crew together, the Acuna and Albies, and it was like our first look at them as a collective team. And us Braves fans feel it. We're like, okay, this.
Yeah, I watched them. I watched them in AAA at Cool Ray Field.
We're over the hump, but I was waiting for other people to start, getting in on it and recognizing what the Braves were doing. And I vividly remember you coming in one day, and you're sitting down, and you're just kind of shaking your head. And I'm like, what's wrong, man? And you're like, God, I hate to admit it, but the Braves are back. And we weren't even in first place then. Mm-hmm. We were good.
Yeah.
And you knew we were going to be good.
And a lot of young talent.
That's what the Falcons need. Mm-hmm. The Falcons need that. Like, Matt Ryan gave us a few good years, and we were excited.
I'd say more than a few.
I mean, he won an MVP.
Like top-notch years.
Yeah, top-notch years.
Yeah.
He had a few good years where he was really good.
And then the rest
really good. And the rest were just okay.
Yeah.
All right? But the Falcons need that. We need that excitement. We need a Ronald Acuna. We need a Spencer Strider, even though he's not doing so well this year.
Because even when we have players like in top stats of our categories, when do you ever see the media or anyone talk about them? Drake London had a 1,200 receiving yard year. He had what? How many? He had like 10 touchdowns, something like that.
He had 8 or 9.
He had 8 or 9 touchdowns. He had 100 receptions.
Yep.
That he was like.
And guess what, Drake London? If you're watching this, Mike Evans was one of the most underrated receivers year after year after year until he finally went 10 years over 1,000 receiving yards, and now everybody knows Mike Evans. So Drake, keep doing your thing.
But I mean, to my point is, like, he was what, top 10? He was a top 10, almost top 5 receiver last year.
And so that's what.
And everyone's just like, oh, that was cool, I guess.
I think the Falcons are headed in the right direction. The problem in the NFL is it's hard to retain these guys. It's because. Obviously,
contracts keep on getting
everybody
bigger,
wants
bigger,
their bread, and with the salary cap, you can only retain so many of them.
And with the contracts keep on getting bigger every year, I mean,
you got the fan favorites like Bijan's obviously going to be a fan favorite. Penix is hopefully our franchise quarterback.
He's on the rise.
So you're going to have a select few of players that you're going to have to make decisions on in the years coming up, and we'll see what happens. But hopefully they keep the fan favorites because that's what draws the fans to the games.
I know.
Yeah.
So you can't ask people questions and be like, hey, what's your favorite Falcon of all time? And then people are like, let me think, and it's like Matt Ryan. Like, I mean, that's recent. Yeah, like there should be an instant.
But you know what? The thing about Matt Ryan is if you ask a lot of Falcons fans like who your favorite Falcons of all time is, or who's the best Falcon of all time, you still don't get Matt Ryan, and it's a shame. It really is a shame.
We still got people saying Michael Vick is the best Falcon of all time.
You had to bring that up.
Great talent. One of the craziest talents I've ever seen in my life. He's not the best Falcon of all time.
All right.
This is episode 1, so it's probably not going to be seen by a lot of people. So you brought it up, so here it goes. I hate Michael Vick with an absolute passion. There is no other person on this planet that we can blame for the Joey Harrington, Byron Leftwich, Bobby Petrino years.
That was awful.
Other than Michael Vick. We paid this man the highest contract in NFL history, and he chooses to go gamble thousands of dollars on dogs killing each other. This man is stupid. He's an idiot. He is one of the worst human beings I've ever seen in my life. He ruined Atlanta sports for God knows how long. We should have had at least one Super Bowl, if not two, with that man and Roddy White and everybody else that we had.
Dude, that team was literally, as soon as we drafted him, instant.
So anyone out there that ever sees this, that wants to debate me on whether Michael Vick is better than Matt Ryan, I will come to you. Bring it. It's not close.
He will personally fly to your house.
It's
anywhere.
Not close. It's not close. It's not even a fair argument. It's just not. Numbers don't lie. Now, granted, was Michael Vick exciting?
Yes.
Yeah, because he was a running back pretending to play quarterback. He was exciting. Okay? But Matt Ryan is just better, period. End discussion. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
All right.
That's a good way to wrap that up.
All right. So,
I can't disagree.
To conclude this about the unfortunate, pitfalls of the Atlanta fan base, I want to ask a question. And I kind of feel like I know y'all's answer, but I just want you to, go into it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Could you ever see yourself leaving the fan base?
No, unfortunately.
And why not?
I mean, I'm the youngest one here by a wide margin. I'm 20 years old, but I mean, it's like a drug. Unfortunately, it's like I'm waiting. It's gonna happen. Trust me, it's gonna happen. I'm like talking to everyone I know. It's gonna happen. I'm telling you.
So what you're saying is you're still young enough to have hope. That's adorable.
But I mean, like, you gotta have it at some point. I mean, not everyone's gonna win.
Could you ever see yourself leaving the fan base?
I ain't gonna lie, man. It's crossed my mind too many times. But here's the reason why I haven't. Look at the NBA Finals this year. Somebody's gonna break through and win their first NBA Finals. One of the two teams. The Hawks is gonna eventually get there. It may take 20 years, 25 years. I may have gray hair by then, but it's gonna happen. Now, the question is, am I willing to be patient? Because I can't tell you how many times as a Falcons fan I'm a little bit more loyal to. A little bit more, because we have had some bad years, but
whenever we have that good year,
it kind of makes up for it.
Yeah,
Hawks,
because they're fun. Like when they're fun, really fun.
I've thought about it, and you know what? It's probably because I haven't been as in tune in basketball. I haven't watched as much until this year. This year I've watched a good bit of basketball.
I watched more.
It's just kind of like the game's getting a little bit of exciting again. But
SGA, thank you. Mid-range is back.
Yes, SGA. I personally like SGA's game, and it was kind of funny. A kid in Houston, I took a trip to Houston a while back, and he asked me, he's like, "Hey man, who's your favorite player?" And I had to think about it because I don't have a favorite player in NBA currently, and I'm like, it's kind of hard not to say SGA. And I don't think it's that's because they're having a good year. It's like, well,
yeah.
I mean, I've talked to multiple people for like 3 years about SGA. Like, dude, he's better than MVP. Like,
so
he's good. He's fun to watch. That's the biggest thing.
So I'll answer this question, as anyone watching and these two obviously know. Short answer is yes.
You already did.
I already have. I've left two fan bases. However, this is going to sound like excuses and all that, and I've already been ridiculed, and I'll continue to be ridiculed, and that's fine. Let me explain. So, I was a Hawks fan, diehard through and through. I followed Dirk Nowitzki, obviously, for a long time. He was when I first was introduced to the game, but I still rooted for the Hawks. I was with the Hawks during the Speedy Claxton years, the Marvin Williams, Sheldon Williams, all those years, them drafting Marvin Williams instead of Chris Paul. I went through that. That happened. The Josh Smith, Josh Childress years. I've been through them. I went through them, and I was still there. I was on board. What happened to that team that had the first overall seed in the East? Went 60 wins, and they just blew it up after that. That just told me, in my personal opinion, that the ownership and front office did not believe in the team like the fans did. So they turned their back on the fan base. Or the coach. In my personal opinion. So I was already kind of weary. I was already kind of leaning away from the Hawks. Fast forward to 2018, I believe. 2018, 19, I believe. Somewhere in there. I was in State Farm Arena at the draft party when the Atlanta Hawks selected the Don.
The Don.
What?
Luka Doncic.
There you go.
I immediately made a beeline to a representative to sign up for season tickets. I had the paper in front of me, signing it. Ticker comes across. Atlanta Hawks trade Luka Doncic to the Dallas Mavericks for Trae Young and a first-round pick. I ripped the season ticket form in half and walked out. Again, I already followed Dirk, loved Dirk. Luka just happened to go to Dallas.
Ends up being Cam Reddish.
Bam.
Yeah.
So just by that alone,
Gosh.
I cannot defend anyone being a fan of the Hawks anymore. Just by those two things.
It's been rough.
Now the Braves.
I'm on and off. I'm still. I'm gonna be on.
Yeah. Now the Braves. I was already beaten down by what the Hawks had did, so I was already kind of fed up. And then the Braves just started trading guys away. And these weren't the best guys. He laughs at me all the time, but it was Martin Prado. He was my favorite player on the team.
This man jumped ship for Martin
Prado.
Prado. He was like 35 years old.
They trade him away. They trade Anderson Simmons away. They trade Craig Kimbrell away. They trade Justin Upton away. They just blew it up. And I was not wanting to go through a rebuild. I just did not want to go through a rebuild. I am because in my opinion, in baseball, you've said it 100 times on this show. Atlanta is a top 5 media market. There is no reason that they can't spend money, and there's no reason that they need to go through a rebuild. I thought it was BS, and they did it because they wanted a new stadium. Having said that, to his point, I have admitted that the Braves are back. Not this year. Sorry, guys. But in being true to not wanting to be a bandwagon jumper, I have not come back, and I will not come back. I left, so if y'all win 10 World Series over the next 11 years, I'm just going to have to eat crow. But that's why I left those two teams.
That'll be awesome.
That's why I left those two teams. Now, the Atlanta Falcons, I've hung around, and like Junior said, it's something about football.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. But that was going to be my next question going into this. Because I already know y'all's answer to this. You only got to ask, and y'all know my answer. These guys don't laugh. They're both Georgia Tech fans, okay?
God, just don't laugh.
But
Man.
hold on to that point. You want to talk about mediocrity. Why is it that college teams can hold on to their fan base, but pro teams can't? For the most part. Because like you just said, you met people in Alabama that were Patriots fans. We all know why.
Mm-hmm.
You met somebody who was a Baltimore Ravens fan. Lamar Jackson's a 2-time MVP. We know why. I'm sure there's Chiefs fans everywhere all of a sudden. There's Golden State Warriors fans. They all came out of the woodwork when they went on their run. It's just part of it. Cowboys fans. You mentioned Cowboys fans. That's America's team. But college is like you're not going to
college or getting shot.
You're not going to leave that team.
But they're out there.
But why do you think that is?
But it's
a
a lot less.
It's the same bandwagon fans that jumped ship to KC. They went from New England to KC. They went from the Boston Celtics to the Warriors. It's the same fans that will jump ship from Alabama to maybe Georgia or Ohio State because they're good.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. I like this team because they're good.
Well, I mean,
they're out there. I've met them.
Mm-hmm.
It's also different though.
My uncle was one of them.
It's also different though because you have those. I would say not nearly as much as professional sports.
And I would say,
but people go to these schools. You have people there.
That's true.
You have people there who've been there and been alumni for 40 years.
Yeah.
And they will stay by that. Like they went to fraternities, they went to sororities.
And I think the fans
they went there.
The alumni you're talking about, they're going to stay loyal. They're going to stay faithful to the schools that they went to.
Yeah. And that makes up a big population.
I'm talking about just a general fan that didn't go to schools, maybe didn't go to college, maybe they did go to college, but their football teams at their college sucks or they don't have one.
Yeah.
I'm talking about just the fans, like the fans of the football teams, not necessarily the fans that are loyal to their school. Like I didn't go to Tech, but I like Tech's baseball team, football team, and basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go to Georgia.
Don't know why, but I just like all three of those teams.
I didn't go to Tech either.
There's people out there that like Alabama's football team, but at the same time root with Duke's basketball team.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? They're not really loyal to the school, to the brand. They just like the teams. And those say Alabama goes 1-11 next year, and then 2-10 the year after, they're going to lose fans.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
They're going to jump ship to Georgia or Ohio State.
But doesn't it seem like college sports? There's more tradition.
I mean, yeah,
a lot more tradition.
I mean,
And that's what keeps fans around.
You have everything. We have we have a car that drives on the field.
Yeah.
I mean, it's different because it was made to be different.
And I think college sports teams get a pass from diehard fans, because they don't have the same plights that pro sports do. They don't have a GM that makes a bad decision and they lose a great player.
Yeah.
You
have a director of operations or something.
You have
like
the transfer portal, which is what it is, but it's like there's so much turnover anyway, because these guys are only staying in school for 3 years, that you're not like, when you get like the Dallas Mavericks, when you got Luka Doncic, you're like, he's staying forever. That's what you want. He left. He left.
He left.
Dallas shipped him out.
Just imagine if that was recorded before it happened.
And Dallas lost fans for it.
Yep.
I'm one of them.
Yeah.
Left them too.
You jump ship on that?
See you bye. Lake show, baby.
That's another topic.
Yeah, but but like Georgia, to your point, like it's easy. It's really easy for me to be a Georgia fan right now.
Right. From here too.
Because we've had success here lately. However, I went through the Joe Cox years. I went through the Joe Tiershinsky years. I went through the Hudson Mason year. I went through. I went through the Adam Lambert year.
Crazy.
I call him.
I was like, wait a minute, what? Why are you talking about the Queen cover artist?
I call him Adam Lambert because he was a queen on the field.
Wait a minute, but who was the quarterback to start that year?
Of what?
It wasn't Grayson Lambert. It was what's his name? Daquan.
DeJohn Mathis.
Daquan Mathis.
Dang.
Awful.
I
went through those. I went through those. Now we got Kirby, and it's been a lot better. But I never jumped ship like I did all the others. But it's because I didn't feel like.
Were you ever close to jumping ship?
From Georgia?
Do you feel like?
No.
I wonder why that is.
I don't know.
He's been close to jumping.
I've been close to, There's been, Bowling Green.
I watched that game.
Northern Illinois. We can keep on going.
I have a recording of
Virginia Tech.
I have a recording of him in a brewery in downtown Athens saying "Go Dogs" and barking.
It was the Citadel. The Citadel. You lose to teams like that year after year. There was like 3 or 4 years in a row where Tech lost to a team that either wasn't Power 5 or was FCS.
Yeah.
You're talking about Temple, Northern Illinois, the Citadel, Bowling Green.
And see, I will say, in my lifetime, Georgia hasn't done that.
Yeah. So you lose game after game after game. You eventually get tired of it.
Well, that's what I was asking. Could you ever see yourself leaving the fan base?
I've been close.
You were teetering on Tech, but now that Tech has kind of come back, you're like, all right.
I think I don't know if it's me and him, but I think I've anchored down enough to the point where I'm like, I've committed.
Yeah.
I have a picture of me as a 2-year-old with an oversized Georgia Tech shirt on from my dad.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've anchored down enough on the Georgia Tech fandom. Unfortunately, at some times, where it's like, it's just, I love our fight song. Yeah. I love our colors. I love Brent Key. I hated Jeff Collins. But I just, even though there's points in time where I'm like, we just did, like, that just happened. How did that just happen?
Syracuse last year.
Syracuse, the 8 overtime freaking game. It's like, I see that happen, and I'm like, but I come back to it again.
This is where I'm at, because the year when we lost to Bowling Green, trust me, I was out. I was like, I am done.
Yeah, he called me that day.
I started deleting apps.
That was the first time he's ever cussed me out on the phone.
Yeah. I started deleting Tech off my everything. Like, I was just done. And I was done for the rest of that year. I was done. And the problem was I actually started thinking, like, okay, who's going to be my next team? And I'm going through, and I'm looking for a new favorite team. And there was nobody that I liked enough for me to be like, hey, this is my new team.
That gave you that feeling.
Yeah, there's no other team.
It's it's in here. It's
And
not.
it's-
It's not physical.
It's probably because I have
emotional.
been a Tech fan for what 2 decades now, that I just couldn't.
That's what I'm saying. Isn't that
You're
weird?
emotionally attached to it.
Isn't that weird that you have that feeling for a college team,
I mean,
but
not
not
really.
pro? Isn't that weird?
I have felt the same way about my pro teams. The Hawks is probably the team that I would be first to jump ship.
Now the NIL for me is changing that. I think for me, what it was for the longest time is before the NIL happened, it was because that player committed to that team, and he chose that team. He's staying there. He is committed for the next 3 to 4 years.
But like, go back.
Now you can just go wherever you want to go, and
It makes it hard, but
I mean, going back to the Braves, like you jumped ship because the Braves sold out. That was a reason for all the other Braves to jump ship also.
Mhm.
But I stayed. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna cheer on Brandon Phillips, and I'm gonna cheer on Alex Gonzalez, and I'm gonna cheer on all these old farts that they just brought in.
Julio Teheran.
And I'm gonna root with the Braves with pride. And I knew we weren't going to win because the Phillies had Ryan Howard.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew this was just a holdover. I knew it, and I knew that. And I was like, we will be back. And we have been. So, yeah, I didn't feel like I really wanted to jump ship with the Braves. The Falcons, they have given me plenty of reasons to also do the same.
But I'm still like, I'm entwined. I can't leave. I'm entwined. The pain that I felt can only be fixed by a win, by a Super Bowl victory. That's the only way it's gonna happen.
The only thing I can think of to y'all.
And I have to stay until that happens.
I think like sports that I'm not really invested in, like basketball, I have not been invested in. I think it'd be easier for me to just be like, hey, I'm a Lakers fan, go Luka, because
And that's happened with a
I
lot of
haven't really been
basketball
invested. Like it'd be easy for me to be like, hey, I have one of the founding keys to Atlanta United, but they suck, so now I'm gonna go root with the LA Galaxy. I can say that, but I don't care about soccer.
Yeah.
So it would be easy for me to
I
jump
actually,
ship.
I actually do care about soccer. So.
And I mean, to your point, now that we've discussed this more, and we've had these conversations a lot of times way before we ever decided to start this, about me jumping ship. Maybe it is just I'm not that invested in the sport.
It could be.
Which sounds crazy because basketball's my number one sport, but I think more than anything, I'm more of a player guy.
Yeah.
Than a
That's
team
but
guy.
that goes for a lot of basketball.
You were already
That's just basketball.
on the fence of rooting with the Mavericks because of Dirk. Dirk was your childhood,
Yeah.
your childhood, idol really.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the tattoo on your arm. I
Yeah.
mean, and then you bring in a guy like Luka to follow up Dirk. I don't blame you. I really don't. Dirk, I was a Dwayne Wade fan, and I'm not gonna lie. The years that Shaq was there, I rooted with Miami.
Yeah.
Never came out and said, "Hey, I'm a Heat fan," but I was rooting with them.
Yeah.
I wanted them to win the championship.
Trust me, much like most NBA diehards, I don't want the Lakers to win another championship. But if it means Luka gets one, I'm all for it.
And so
And
when LeBron and Bosh and the boys came to Miami, I was all for it. Like, hey, Dwayne needs a champion, another one, baby, give him another one.
Yeah.
I was all for it.
I think the reason for me for that, to counteract y'all's point, me growing up watching basketball, I only ever watched Hawks.
Yeah.
I didn't have a player beside. I mean, my player that I loved as a kid was Kyle Korver.
Yeah.
Now, you know what I'm saying? So I never had another team or another player. I mean, I knew about Shaq and I knew about I knew about LeBron. I liked LeBron. I had a pair of KDs. That was my first basketball shoe that I had.
Yeah.
But I never was
Invested in those players.
I never invested in those players besides just wearing the stuff because I thought it was cool. I always was all right, I'm gonna watch the Hawks because that's what I know. That's what my dad knows. That's what my brother knows. I never jumped to another. I love watching players. I love Jokic. I've talked about SGA forever. I love a lot of players, but I've always just been an Atlanta sports fan, and that's just how it's probably just gonna be.
Yeah.
Because I'm invested, and that's how most people are, I think.
Well, I can say this, I can watch a Braves game. If I could, I can watch them every night.
Yeah. I mean, I can put it on.
I can't, but if I could, I can watch them every night. My sport of choice was football. Falcons, obviously, I watch every game.
Yeah.
You're not.
I have Red Zone and Falcons.
You're not going to see me miss too many Falcons games. But to the Falcons, I also watch other NFL teams because I like the sport.
Yeah.
In the NBA,
I'm playing fantasy. So
you don't really see me. You don't find me watching too many other games.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have watched a good bit of the playoffs, but I couldn't tell you anything that happened in the regular season up to the playoffs. And
besides dollars.
I wasn't invested in it.
Dollars for me too.
So if you don't watch the sport, you don't really see players, and you don't really get invested in players. Whereas I watch football. Calvin Johnson obviously was my guy. Ken Griffey Jr. was my guy in baseball, and so I rooted with the Reds alongside with the Braves because until Griffey retired. So I think when you're invested in a player like you were with Dirk, I think it's different.
Yeah.
Now the Cardinals, I don't understand.
Yeah.
We going there?
I just messing with
We going there?
I get it. Pujols, McGuire, I get it.
I'll just go into that real quick. So my first baseball memory was the Summer of Love, the home run chase between McGuire and Sosa. And I thought Mark McGuire looked like a superhero. Fell in love with him.
You did like superhero.
I fell in love with
He
it.
was on steroids.
I wonder why.
It was everything all encompassing him, man. It was the red beard with the red hair, with the red helmet, with the red and gold uniform, hitting 500-foot home runs, and I was just
tape measure.
So I fell in love with the Cardinals, and then like you said, it was just one right after the other, man. Like McGuire phased out. Here comes Albert Pujols, one of the greatest first basemen that's ever played the game. I'll argue with anybody that. And then you got Yachty that stayed there forever, and then obviously it helped. I'm not afraid to admit this. It helped that they're one of the most successful franchises in Major League Baseball.
They win.
It helped.
They do.
They're
rich in history too. So.
Up until about 2 years ago, and this actually will tell you that I learned my lesson with hopping off the Braves. The Cardinals have been through a couple down years, and I haven't left.
Jordan Walker, franchise player.
I stayed with them. So that's kind of, and then when the Falcon or the Braves kind of did what they did, that's why I was able to just kind of, I'm just going to go all in on the Cardinals. Then my favorite player after Pujols retired is Nolan Arenado. All of a sudden, they trade for Nolan Arenado.
It's a perfect scenario.
I feel like when it comes to sports, like God is looking at me like, look, man, I got you. Like, I was a Dirk fan, loved Dirk. I have Dallas gear. I have so much money invested in Dallas, and it's like Luka gets drafted by Atlanta. I'm like, hey man, that's great. I'll be hometown kid. And God's just like, you know what? We're just gonna send him to Dallas too. And I'm like, okay, great, fantastic. So I'm all in there now.
And then GM like the most hated man in Dallas.
Yeah, I got thrown a curveball with him going to LA, but it is what it is. But he
had a press conference for that.
I did.
He held himself. He was like, all right.
I wanted to put it out there because I was so upset at the time. I didn't want to get all the questions from everybody asking me. Yeah. And I still got it. I still got text message after text message after phone call. Your brother was the first one that called me. He called me like 2 o'clock in the morning. Hey, man, how you feeling? I'm like, I feel like shit. This is awful.
I thought about calling you.
I thought it was a prank. I thought it was real.
I was in the truck with my dad.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit. I was like, did you see this? He was like, no. He put on his glasses. Whoa. I was like, what the?
No one thought
that was the craziest trade that I've ever seen.
So wrapping up with this.
Yeah.
How comparable is the Luka Doncic getting traded to the Lakers compared to what just happened in baseball? Denver's getting traded to the Giants. This is put your thoughts on that for a second.
Comparable?
Yeah. It's like I don't think it's comparable.
It's hard. It's hard for me to answer that question because I'm so biased.
Yeah.
To me, Luka Doncic is a top 3 player in the league. I don't think Rafael Devers is a top 3 player.
The Devers trade to the Giants doesn't have as much of an impact on the sport, on the city, on the fan base like Doncic did.
I think it has a major impact on the Red Sox for sure because Devers was the only holdover from the last time they won a World Series. Yeah. If you think about it, he was the best player on the team. Yeah, even this year, he was the best player.
300 plus hitter.
Exactly.
Year in, year out.
Now I think it kind of changed a little bit there because Luka was traded in the middle of the night.
He was blind.
Like he was just robbed by it. He still is hurt by it.
Devers clips of him like tearing up.
Devers has been being negative toward the team and the franchise since spring training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When the Red Sox fans are so happy, there's actually a Netflix documentary out right now where they follow the Red Sox throughout the whole season, and the fans talked about this. They were starting to get mad because the Red Sox decided to stop spending money. The Red Sox all of a sudden started spending money. They brought in Alex Bregman. They brought in Garrett Crochet. They really started wanting to invest, and it's like Devers got all mad about it.
Well,
Well, what about me? What about me?
Well,
And it's like-
they asked him to change positions too.
Which, okay,
But he's the most committed.
they didn't.
Third baseman.
They didn't ask him to change. They really didn't go at him to change positions.
And they didn't communicate with him. As the star player in Boston, do you think it's fair that they probably should have threw a little hint at him, like, hey, we're bringing another third baseman in, and we have
your position's gone.
and we're and he's a better defensive player than you, and he's probably just as good offensively, maybe not as good, but we're asking you to move. Do you think that they should have had that conversation, or
Yeah, it wasn't even like a hey. It wasn't even like a hey.
Or do you think
we'll
that
bring this up to them and then we do it, or like we did it?
So I'm not going to make.
They didn't even say anything.
So I'm not going to make a blanket statement about it because I think it is case by case. In that case, no.
okay?
I don't think he deserved it. Only reason is because he was the biggest complainer that they weren't competitive leading into the season.
Yeah.
How do you get competitive?
Spending money.
Get a better defensive third baseman and a just as good hitter.
I'll spend money,
That's right-handed.
especially now.
So the most recent, chatter with the whole Devers was basically, that whole thing went down and Devers didn't take that too well. Well, then here recently, Bregman goes down and Casas goes down, and it seems like the team's just kind of falling apart. And they wanted Devers to move to first base, and he's like, no, he asked me to put my glove up and be a DH, and that's what I am. And so that's kind of where this is all kind of just unfolded, and the organization's like, you know what, we're done with this.
Yeah.
And do you think that's fair? That, or do you think that Devers has a valid point? Like, hey, you already asked me to put my glove up, and now
We don't know yet, or at least I don't think. I haven't seen it, play out yet, or see any of his comments. I don't think Devers is upset at all.
no, I don't think so either.
I think he enjoyed.
he enjoyed
Boston. I think he appreciated the fan base.
You go from a team that is currently, if I'm not mistaken, they're third or fourth in the division.
They just swept the Yankees.
Not going anywhere fast. Bregman is out, going to be out for a while. Casas is out for the entire season. Their pitching staff is very up and down.
And they just called up 3 of their
And
prospects for the year.
and then you basically ship him. He doesn't have to live in Boston anymore. Let's talk about weather for a second. He gets to go from Boston to San Francisco, California, to a team that is competing. And he's still getting paid.
The contract.
San Francisco's still paying his whole contract.
Yeah. So to me, it sounds like a win-win situation. Well, honestly, the Red Sox probably lost because I don't think they got enough in return for a guy like Devers. But last question: does Devers play third base in San Francisco?
No.
Matt
Chapman?
No, Matt Chapman, great
So,
defensive player.
and that's why.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, he's still in a similar situation where he has just got traded from a team that would no longer let him play third base, the position that he's played his whole life. He's never played any other position. Now he's getting traded to another team who probably has a better defensive third baseman there.
Yeah. But however, where I think is going to be a little different because the Giants traded for him. I think they're going to be a little more open to letting him play some third and let Matt Chapman DH.
Yeah, because he's also been a little
Chapman's
injured.
been getting a little injured too, so
Probably getting a little.
they're going to be a little more open to that. Plus, you got to think too, Devers being a left-handed bat in San Francisco with that bay out there.
Dude, did you see the analytics? Like his home runs that he's hit.
Yeah.
If you put him in Oracle Park and you see it to the bay, it's like there's like 100 out there that are like 100 feet into the bay.
And then to your point on if you think Boston lost, I think that's subjective because maybe it got so bad that Boston looked at it like he was a distraction and he's bringing the team down.
Yeah, they were.
Because to your point, I mean they got Jordan Hicks who
Kyle Harrison.
He is what it is. Kyle Harrison is a really good young pitcher. And
James Tibbs.
They got 2 prospects.
Yeah.
James Tibbs just got drafted.
But they also
pretty
did
good.
that can't be discounted here is they got rid of his 9-year contract.
Yeah.
Crazy contract.
That's just like
He had 9 years.
Put yourself back in fan base as a Braves fan, and when we traded Justin Upton, who was kind of our player equivalent to Devers. Not quite as good as Devers, but he had pop. 45 homers a year.
Yeah, he was a fan favorite.
And I just remember when we made that trade and we traded him and Kimbrel to the Padres, I just remember the gut-wrench the gut wrenching feeling like, oh,
Yeah, I can
this
see
is it. We
Now,
suck again.
if I were a Red Sox fan, and this is how I just feel about my teams that I love, if I truly feel like the player didn't do everything he was asked to do, I'm not going to miss him.
Yeah.
He was a malcontent. He didn't do what the team asked him to do, which, I'm sorry, before Bregman went down and we lost Casas for the year, you going to first base made logical sense. I'm sorry, it just did.
He can do it.
Third basemen who play third and end up getting a little older, get a little pudgier around the waist, they move to first base. What they do. Vladimir Guerrero didn't care.
No, he didn't.
Nope, not at all.
He actually went DH before he went to first base.
He didn't. He was, where do you need me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it just came across like Boston did everything that he asked. They gave him the contract, even though they're not competitive. They still gave him the contract.
And with him being a DH, did he deserve that contract?
Exactly. And it's like, hold on, we can use you elsewhere. That'll fill a gap. This is going to fill a big hole at first base. Because even though you're not as good defensively at third as Alex Bregman, I assure you he could be better at first than the first baseman they have.
Yeah.
And then you look at these other players that have moved positions based on what teams have asked, and it's like, okay, you had Fernando Tatis went from shortstop to outfield.
Mookie
You had
Betts.
Mookie Betts, one of the best players in all of baseball, went to shortstop. You had
He played wherever he wanted to.
You had O'Neal Cruz, who went from shortstop to center field.
And then you have guys like Chris Taylor that just wants to stay in a lineup. So he's like, put me in, coach, wherever you want.
You have people who've been in the system their entire AAA, AA, single A career as a shortstop, and you're like, we need you to go out the outfield, and they're like, all right, and if you call me up, you know what I'm saying?
And then like
it's just a difference.
Another guy I think about when it comes to that is a guy that most people would think would have had a problem with it because of his ego, Bryce Harper.
Mm-hmm.
He had a problem going to first base.
No.
And then the rumors came up that they might put him back in the outfield, and he's like, okay.
Yeah, that's a little. I'd say that's a little different.
Well, I think
it's still the same thing.
I think if you're that guy like Devers is, I think you should be willing to do whatever the organization's asking you to do. So whatever helps us win, you should do.
Yep.
And he wasn't willing to do it. And so do I understand why the Red Sox traded him? Absolutely.
So
do I feel for the fan base? Absolutely. Because that's.
So as a fan, I hate losing a guy like that. But also, okay, you shipped him to the other side of the country.
To another NL West
National League, so I'm not going to see him unless we end up playing them in the World Series, which we're not even a playoff team right now. Yeah. You freed up all that money that you can give to somebody else. Another free agent coming in. The rumors were before the season even started, Vlad.
Mm-hmm.
That was the rumor because Sauce can't stay healthy. So if you
already got that contract.
So if you're able to parlay that into a player that can go play first base or play wherever, the problem was bringing in Bregman started all this, yes. But the one thing the Boston Red Sox needed was a power right-hand bat.
Mm-hmm.
Bregman was the best power right-hand bat on the market.
And they brought in what they needed.
He wanted to go to Boston. You can't tell him no. Bregman at first, I know this because I drafted him in fantasy for it. Bregman at first was willing to go to second base so Devers could keep his position. And all the coaches during spring training were just like,
no,
Bregman's better.
Yeah.
What
are we doing?
I'm sorry, he's just better at
Bregman
third.
could have played anywhere in the infield.
Exactly.
He has played multiple.
And Devers can play second base too.
Yeah.
He has played second base in the past.
And don't want to be optimal, but
he used to. He did not.
That's where, to me, your ego gets in the way, and we'll see if it works out with the Giants because I don't think Matt Chapman is going to be willing to move off the third either for Devers. I don't think he's going to be willing to move off of it. Yeah. I really don't. And I don't think the Giants, when you look at it defensively, like you were saying, I don't think it's going to make sense for them to move Chapman off of it. But yeah, give him a day off here and there to DH. That's fine. The Red Sox are doing that for Devers too.
Yeah.
Anytime to me a player forces himself out, I don't feel sorry for the player, even if I'm a fan of the team.
Well, I just brought that up because we're talking about fan bases and.
Because it just happened.
Yeah. And the Red
Sox.
It's
news.
The Red Sox have been in a
drought. MLB's the only thing going on.
They've been in a drought themselves, and I don't feel bad for any Bostonian because they have won enough championships. Yeah. But that is a blow to any franchise.
They've won more championships
between
Celtics
and the Patriots and the Bruins. I mean.
And there's possibly more coming.
And they've won. Those three teams have won more championships that my probably family line
Yeah.
will see.
And the city of
For all I
Boston might be one of the most successful sports cities in America.
Yeah, and
Not even the biggest market.
And you go back to the NBA for a second. I mean, there's another one that could be coming down the pipe now. You know, Giannis is probably on his way out of Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
Is Milwaukee going to recover from that?
Depends
They went all the way from Kareem to getting Giannis to be competitive again. That's how long it took.
And it's going to take the Hawks to get a guy like Giannis to be competitive. So hopefully Giannis comes to Atlanta.
Hey, I mean, you know, if y'all willing to give up Jalen Johnson,
Let's do it. I'm all in.
All right.
so
Closing statements.
yeah. So I mean, that's pretty much it, man. I you know, just want to talk about the fan bases. You know, Atlanta sports fans have it worse than any other fan base in the country. Just
Mic
gonna say that.
Mic drop.
So,
I can agree with that statement.
if there's anybody out there that wants to debate that and wants to have a discussion,
I think we're all willing
we're all
to
ears.
talk about that.
And depending on if you're a yellow jacket or a bulldog, you may have it even worse.
Exactly. Last thing I want to say, we gotta get used to saying this in all these videos. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends about it. Post it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is that you use. Appreciate all the support.
Hopefully we get one out
Yep.
every week. That's every Wednesday is I think the schedule we're talking about.
We'll be back with you next week. Today is Monday as of this recording. We'll be dropping this on Wednesday. And then that's kind of the plan moving forward. So, you know, stay tuned and let us know what you guys think. All right.
Thank you.
I can't stop it.
It's gonna be edited. Bro, what are you talking about?